Hi, I'm Will Bruin, and I was just recognized as a Seattle Sounders legend. Now I get to do voice reads for the Sounder at Heart podcast network.
Here we go. Come on! Hey, O'Shan! Let's go!
The Seattle Sounders have done it! MLS Cup winners! The Sounders rule the region! Seattle Sounders is campeón! All creatures great and small.
Rothrock going to collect it. He does just about. Runs into the advertising awning. Low to our left. Ball goes in. Oh, what a cross! And what a goal!
Where's my copy?
I got a bunch of them in the car. I'll get you some.
You're handing them out for free already.
How many
cost on them?
$50.
I'll Venmo you.
This episode of Nos Arietes is sponsored by Full Pull Wines, a Seattle-based wine retailer and proud sponsor of Nos Arietes since 2011. Full Pull was founded in 2009, is based in Seattle, and is owned and operated by longtime Sounders supporters. They offer the best boutique wines of the world to members of their mailing list, with special focus on their home, the Pacific Northwest. Welcome back to another episode of Nos Arietes on the Sounder at Heart podcast network. It is Friday. We are back at the Sounder at Heart studios, and we have video. Look at this. This is quite a set that Noah and Loving Scorchers have helped decorate, and I, of course, paid for because that's how this works. Of course. But it's Friday. It's a beautiful day, and I am joined by Niko Moreno for another episode of What We Learned This Week. Niko, how you doing?
Man, I'm excited. I am at awe. I feel like we're
This
coming
is like
up.
surreal.
We're moving up like the Joneses, man. We're just like the Jeffersons. We're up there.
Yes.
The visual component. I mean, it's pretty sick. I got to give Noah some credit for just the aesthetics. I mean, he looks like an aesthetics guy.
He's an aesthetics guy
for sure. But of course, you, Mr.
Or
I'm
aesthetic.
going to Mexico.
I think you just
Is
say
it aesthetic?
I think you just say aesthetic if you're like being hip. Otherwise, it's aesthetics is like an old person.
Well, there you go. Take it for what it is. But my guy, he puts it together. And of course, you, Mr. Going to Mexico on vacation.
I know. Paul Rothrock giving me a hard time about taking a week off.
I saw it.
So I said, I appreciate you noticing.
You did. That's right. We're coming up.
Yeah. Exactly.
No, but I'm excited. You know, we had a decent week of training with some things to share with everyone. But yeah, so just this is the first time we're out here. So if I look awkward or we don't, we'll start to figure it out.
Yeah, we're definitely gonna be awkward on screen for a little bit, but that's okay. All right, so this week we might as well start with the biggest news out of this week, and there's a few injuries. You know, it was funny. Brian Schmetzer after the game on Saturday, when we asked him about Albert Rusnak coming out early, he sort of like, it's nothing. He was tired, and then we asked Albert about it, and he's like, I don't know if I'd say I was tired. I was feeling some tightness, and he's like, we'll see how it goes this week. Well, he did not participate in any full training sessions this week. He was outside. He was doing some work. Brian said that if there was a playoff game, he would probably be in, maybe even starting. But given that it's not a playoff game, I would say he's very much questionable, maybe available off the bench, but there's no way he'll be starting.
No, definitely not starting. There's no reason to do so. You have a very capable Jesus Ferreira to take that spot. You might even be, trying to get minutes for Jesus Ferreira at that position. Yeah. He talked about all week about both that dual 10 option and then one over the other. So.
And it also makes some decisions easier. I mean,
sure.
He wants to get Danny Musovsky on the field. It allows him to sort of push Jordan Morris out to the wing.
Totally.
He keeps Paul Rothrock on the field. The Sounders right now are very. I made this comment today when I was watching practice. Is that you look out at the lineup and they're missing Yamar. Another one, Christian Roldan, is going to be out, which we'll talk about. Albert Rusnak wasn't there. Paul Arriola has been out on the side as well. And you look at that lineup and you go, sure, that's fine. Like I'll take all those starters.
Especially with the team that's coming into town, right? I mean, what I definitely appreciate about the Sounders is something that we have been preaching all year long, which is their floor is extremely high.
Yeah.
And that goes into their depth where, yes, you can be missing your top center backs. You could be missing your main and starting pivot in Christian Roldan. And you could still be like, wow, this is a very competitive team. Mm-hmm. So the competition is also going to get and create more discourse as the things continue to go forward and players come back in, because we asked Brian about Tino Lopez, and it's not just Tino, right? He basically mentioned it's Tino and Kalani having. I can't add Tino for Alex without pushing Alex out wide and not having Kalani in that position. Right. So there's so much going well for this team in terms of competition that one decision in one spot is also going to be changing 2 or 3 of them. Mm-hmm. And that's a great problem to have. So if anything I learned this week is that this group is very cemented, very together, but they all understand the level of competition that is out there. And I think you mentioned it, and you were spot on. Maybe you can talk a little bit about that line that you mentioned when it comes to maybe other teams in contrast to the Sounders, where it's not as cutthroat. You're still competitive, but you're still a family. You're still there's this level of camaraderie that maybe you don't see in other clubs.
You don't. And, one of the things that for a long time in MLS we talked about was how in Europe there's competition for spots every week, and that it's not necessarily a friendly competition, that it's like you look at the guy across from you as your competition, as you're about putting money on or food on the table for your kid. And one of the things that the Sounders have been able to do is create that sense of competition, but not create that cutthroat sort of like it's me or you sort of attitude, and that there is this collectiveness. And that's something that I think comes out of, it starts from the top. I mean, it's Brian Schmetzer, it's Adrian Hanauer, it's Craig Weibel, it's all the decision makers up top. But it's also the players who have been around long enough, who know each other, who have real relationships. One of the things we talked this week was Snyder Brunell, and he was talking about how the central midfielders are this tight group that's almost like a goalkeepers union, in that they are hanging out and they are, friendly, and they are, a lot of these guys came up through the academy together, and so they played for Tacoma Defiance together, and they have these existing relationships, and I think it does sort of create this collectiveness that allows the Sounders to be more than the whole is more than the sum of its parts. And, it does come off as a tagline a little bit, but I think there's a lot of truth to it at the same time.
There's a ton of truth. And we've talked about this. And if anything, time gives us more of that validation of some of the takes that we had early on, because this Sounders team by no means has spent as much as Austin, Houston,
anyone,
all of these teams that are below the Sounders right now,
exactly.
RSL, right? All of these teams that they're good, they have all this talent, but they're just not good as a collective. And the Sounders have built this mechanism where you're bringing in a guy like Peter Kingston that has not played at the highest level. He told us this weekend, you can check out his interview on Lobin Scorchers, phenomenal interview, where he was talking about playing Sunday League.
Right.
Where he's playing Ballard FC, right? And now you bring it and you have all of these other methods of just building up your professional career. And now you're in and you are going out there every single week and just giving it all because you're grateful for that opportunity. So those intangibles have always been, to me, one of the keys to the Sounders' success. They don't just look at talent level. They don't look at age. They don't look at just the regular things that you would see in a database for other teams. They're looking at the person that you are. Are you gritty? Can you perform? Are you accountable for your mistakes? All of these additional things that you might think it sounds like, fairy tale like or like unnecessary, or you're just being a little bit too romantic with the soccer components. But it's a real thing, man, where the guys in this locker room have a common goal. They have a lot of common values, and that tends to shine, man. And I don't want to oversimplify what the Sounders do, but I feel like that is something that ever since even Chris Henderson, Garth Lagerwey, and now with Craig Weibel, there is a sense of importance of you as a person and not you as just a soccer player.
Yeah, no, absolutely. But I also don't want to bury the lead too much. We mentioned that Christian Roldan is going to be out this week. And, he's the leader of a lot of these guys, but apparently he took a ball to the head at some point during training this week, and he's in concussion protocol. So he's going to be out at least this week. He was outside doing work, which is a good sign because it usually means they're should not be a multi-week absence. But, as a player who has a history of concussions, I'm sure they're going to be a little bit more careful with him. But yeah, that's going to be a loss for them. But at the same time, they have Snyder Brunell and Hassani Dotson who can just step right in and not be, certainly on a one-game basis, should not be a huge drop-off.
Yeah, you hope that it's not. I mean, Christian Roldan is one of those pillars of your team. And although you do have experienced players like Hassani, very capable, I always look at the details and some of the unique traits to Christian Roldan. So you might have a little bit of a decline maybe on pass progression, maybe on the chemistry between your pivots, that ability to press in the block.
Well, and he's also coming off 2 of his best games of the season.
Absolutely. So that's what I wanted to go to. It's tough because it's not just what he does for the system, but boy, had he been good.
Yeah.
He'd been so good. And it's something that you and I have talked about where he's had some games where maybe he was a little negligent with the ball, maybe not as sharp, but over the last couple of games, he was heading somewhere.
Yeah.
So you might feel that, but to your point, it is nice to know that this group understands the system, and that even though individually and on talent and maybe potential, you're gonna feel it, the overall floor and the overall play is going to still be there. And for Hassani, if there's something that I do like about him is that he simplifies the game. He likes to get rid of the ball very quickly. So maybe that's going to add more to a guy like Jesus Ferreira, maybe add more to a guy like Jordan Morris if he's playing out wide. Snyder Brunell, obviously a guy that has been so good at taking more chances, taking more mid-range shots, being a lot more defiant on the ball. Maybe you add a little bit of pressure there, and that might be what ultimately balances things out for not having Christian Roldan. But I'll finish with this. I am concerned because of his history with concussions. Hassani was, in my opinion, out longer than I thought he would be.
Yeah, for
with
sure.
a concussion.
Yeah, I mean, he ended up missing like 3 weeks.
Yeah, and it sounds like that is because it's so hard to evaluate and get through that clearance of protocol, which I'm totally okay with.
Yeah.
Like, concussions are a real thing, something that you have to be very, strict with. So, we might not have Christian for a couple of weeks, if not 3.
Let's hope not. Let's hope not.
Yeah, no, you got the break, though. You got the FIFA break. So you would only miss him for, I think it's one more game, right?
Oh, is there another break coming up?
Well, I thought, isn't the World Cup almost here?
No, you're like 2 months away, buddy.
Oh my God! Is it? I was talking to Kevin today, and for some reason he made it sound like he was here. So
no, we got like 8 games before the World Cup.
Oh my God!
Yeah, don't worry. Okay. It's okay. We'll edit this out.
This will stay. It's gonna stay. But regardless of, we might miss him for 3 of those 8 games.
Yeah, exactly. But I will say that Hassani is probably a better partner with Snyder than he was with Christian, because I think he is a little bit more of a natural, like at least in the way the Sounders play, he seems to be more of a natural 6 than a natural 8. And Snyder definitely is more of a natural 8 than a natural 6. So I think they potentially form a nice little partnership. But it was funny when we asked Brian today about Snyder, and he didn't give a great quote. It's like you really got to see the answer to get. But he just sort of smiled and did one of these. He's looking really good, like he he really likes Snyder, and he has been very impressed with the progress that he's made this year. And I think really anyone can watch the Sounders and just see that Snyder is a potentially special player. And, you asked him, I believe, about the comparison with Obed Vargas. And now, because Obed is, he just started this week for Atletico in La Liga, he is a player who has already reached a pretty high level, who is potentially a World Cup participant. And he took but you watch Snyder and you see so much of what you saw in Obed. And in some ways, I think he's probably a more dynamic attacking player.
Yeah, I think he might be, if not on par, a step ahead on the offensive efficiency.
Yeah.
He takes a lot more risk than maybe Obed did at that time.
Yeah,
right?
for sure.
He, I think, has done that because of the level of competition. And I love that Snyder mentioned, I'm watching all these guys. I'm watching Atencio.
Yeah.
I'm watching Danny Leyva. I'm watching Obed. And I'm trying to replicate and grab things from each individual player. And I could see it. I could see that. And so maybe at 18 with those role models, you're pushing yourself a little bit harder of saying, man, I want to be able to break pressure with the ball and dribble through pressure. And I want to be able to be a little bit more decisive when I'm taking a mid-range shot. And that has reflected on his play. So love the kid, love the answers, love the fact that he gave flowers, but still had a little smirk.
Yeah,
as in,
like he's confident.
I know what I'm at.
Right.
I know I am. I'm there.
He does not seem at
doesn't shy
all.
away.
No, right. He does, and he doesn't seem intimidated by the competition. He's not giving the aw shucks, I'm just so happy to be here. He's giving I'm one of the guys. I feel like I am colleagues with Christian Roldan and Hassani Dotson and all these other guys. Like, I belong here. And his play is very much on par with, and it's just it's interesting that he's progressed this quickly. And it probably helps that he started so fast last year that he scored 2 goals in his first 2 games, which is kind of crazy to think about. But he has even though he doesn't have a goal or an assist to show for it this year, he just looks like a more complete, he just seems like he belongs more. Like in this last game, he had 2 shots. He could have had a third. He said it, but he ended up setting up Danny Musovski for a decent chance on that one. But both of his shots were really dangerous shots. They were from distance. They troubled Roman Berkey a lot. I really, really think that he is going to be, when it's all said and done, by the end of the year, I think he's going to be a player who is probably cemented in the starting lineup. If nothing, and then not to say where his career could go.
And it does add a component that the Sounders haven't had all season. We've heard, how many times have we heard Brian talk about, we need to take more shots. We need to be able to do more of that.
And that was interesting. It's notable that he is the guy who sort of took that on and said, sure, I'll be more than happy to take some shots from 25 yards or whatever.
So you could tell that he just soaks up what the coaching staff wants. He seems to be better game by game. So look, I don't want to put a lot of pressure, although we asked him about pressure. He just says, look, I do the exact same thing that I did when I was at Tacoma Defiance, and I just try to stay in my lane, which is great. But I do have a lot of expectations from him. We'll see how, and this might be a very good challenge for him to have a guy like Hassani, completely different to what he's had. Maybe he needs to fit a role of, okay, now I got to do more because Christian's not there. So I want to see how he handles it against a Dallas team that we'll talk about here, I'm sure after the break, but that is very physical. And they're going to play them physical. They're going to be very direct. So it's going to be interesting how that plays out. A couple of more things here from training. Yemer Gomez-Andrade, Ryan Saylor, those are the center backs that you are hoping to get back.
Kim Kee-hee.
They were all out there.
Stuart Hawkins, all in.
Yep, all in.
And it sounds like he's actually going to play at Tacoma Defiance next.
Which is great, right? I would say Kim Kee-hee and Stu are the closest guys to being ready to go. Yemer, Brian mentioned he hopes he gets back right before the World Cup break, which is not one more game away. And it was what happened with Ryan Saylor. And I just want to touch up on him very briefly. I've had my eye on him all week long. He seems to be still getting his conditioning back.
Yeah.
I think he has probably the toughest battle into
I would agree.
minutes.
Yeah.
Because Tino has been so good. Kimki, he
is a known quantity.
Is a known quantity and looked good. Today, he looked great. I mean, he was all over, physical, strong, good on the ball. So
and the Sounders have a lot of invested in Hawkins' potential.
And that's the
And so it's like you have just once you even get beyond the Jackson Reagan, Yamar level, you have Tino Lopez, who's already proven himself, Kim Key, who's already proven himself, Stuart Hawkins, who is, like I said, already something they have a lot invested in, Alex Roldan.
Yeah.
And we can talk about that whole situation too. Kalani Kosarienzi, and that it's sort of linked to Alex Roldan. There's a lot, it's hard for me to think of a scenario where it would have to be a injuries and rotation situation for Ryan Saylor just to get on the field, let alone starting games. So, I mean, and that's not, maybe he will. I mean, and it's a great problem for the Sounders to have potentially, but I would agree, he's got the steepest hill to climb to get significant minutes.
So overall, the vibes have been there. You could tell the level of competition is doing something that has a very particular and I would call normal effect with the Sounders training, which is everybody's giving out their very best. Even today, watching Stephen Fry and Andrew Thomas practicing, I mean, Steph still looks like a guy that, man, he looks good, man. I was watching him take some shots today and just that level of competition at all roles to me makes dangerous teams. And maybe the Sounders are not in a hot streak like San Jose is right now, but do I think that the Sounders are going to, at the end of the year, be higher than San Jose on the standings? I think so. I just feel like the depth, the players that you're going to get back. So I'm high on this team because you already did the hard part, which is finding ways to win on the road. Now you come home, the expectation is that you continue to get results.
Now they have to keep doing that, of course.
Of course. But you start getting players back.
Yeah.
And so you've already kind of endured the storm, and now you're hoping that you could just build on that. So that's the way I see it. And I don't know. I really do think that this team has the power to be, one of the top 3 teams in the Western Conference.
Yeah, so there's a little tool that we are getting ready to unveil on Sounder at Heart. It just like measures strength of schedule. And it measures both the previous games that they've played and then it projects their strength of schedule that's left. And the Sounders' strength of schedule based on this metric is the toughest to the point of the season. And the rest of the season is, it's not easy, but it's like closer to the bottom of the middle of the pack. And which just goes to your point of like, they have really played the toughest part of their schedule so far. Now, are they going to be able to continue to get 2.3 points per game? I mean, if they do, they're going to win Supporters Shield. I'm confident in saying that. But I don't know. I also don't know that I expect them to maintain this exact pace. But I think they can. I mean, this is a game that they should win at home. They have a bunch of winnable games coming up. So there's no reason to think that they're going to fall off immediately or that they should fall off immediately. But before we move on to the break and we talk about FC Dallas after the break, I did want to talk a little bit more about the center back situation because it does continue to evolve. I think Yamar probably is going to be able to come back in and get back to being a starter, but with each week it becomes less and less clear, or it's a testament to the players that are here that it's getting tougher and tougher to say that. Last week it was Tino Lopez, who looked very good playing alongside Alex Roldan. It looks like Jackson Reagan will be back this week. Alex Roldan likely playing center back again. But part of that is, Brian said, is that Kalani Kosarienzi is playing so good at right back that they don't want to take him off the field. And this is just, my point is that the Sounders are creating a really good problem, which is they have a lot of players along that back line who they want on the field.
Yeah, totally. And I think in Kalani's favor, I would say that he's just so gifted when it comes to getting forward. It's very
his
easy.
athleticism.
His athleticism is just allows him to get forward with such ease. And the more that this backline plays together, the better they cover each other. So I thought that the St. Louis game was a very professional, good win by the Sounders. I thought that they struggled heavily in the first 20 minutes.
Yeah.
After the goal, they settled down. Credit to the set pieces. But in the moments where things got a little dicey and Nuhu had a couple of bad moments, the guy who...
Especially early,
the guy who came to his rescue and really was able to cut angles and make that transition moment go negative was Tino Lopez. And on the other side, Alex Roldan has been so good on those emergency defense moments that, man, he just seems to fit because Kalani does give you this very dangerous threat on a guy that is explosive and he get behind so quickly. And his delivery on the ball has been very good as well.
That's the one thing that's gotten better, I feel like, in the last few weeks is his delivery has just gotten be a lot because he's someone who I feel like was able to rely on his athleticism to get him out of trouble sometimes, and he's had to do that less recently, and he's just looked like a cleaner player. And if he becomes a really clean technical player, a very high ceiling for him.
Sure. So those are the things I would say that if there is an area, because I don't want to make this team sound like they wouldn't need any help anywhere.
Yeah.
I would think that the one place where you're still hoping that you see another level and that maybe you could still have scrutiny is that 9 position. And it's a narrative that is old and it's tired. But even now that you get a goal here and there from Danny Masovsky, you get a goal here and there from Osase, who, by the way, the goal, I mean, it was a good goal, and I didn't want to, on Monday, Ari was very high on being one of the best goals. It was a good goal. But, man, it wasn't ideal. Like, it wasn't, I don't know how to put it, it wasn't fundamentally right for a forward. Like, that shot should be taken first time.
I mean, we asked Jesus about it, and he just sort of laughed. It's like, yeah, I mean, I thought I did give him a really good ball, and I thought he wasted it. Because
they went around everybody.
Right, exactly. So, I mean, because really what you would like him to do there is either take it first time with his left or just make a quick cut back and hit it with his right. Instead, what he did is he collected it, dribbled around, backpedaled, dribbled around, and then he like
cross shot it.
Right, he hits it like a fadeaway through traffic, and hey, ball goes in.
Absolutely.
So, what are you gonna do?
But like, to me, that's where maybe you still have a bit of a question mark. Where is Danny Masovsky the guy? I couldn't tell you. Is Osase the guy? I don't know. Is Jordan? I would hope so, but we still haven't seen it. So if there was somewhere where you might be able to say, well, look, if this team needs something, is maybe a little bit more TNT, more gunpowder, more explosiveness at that specific position, then that might be it. But everywhere else, it just feels like this team is just deep. There's competition, and they're just in sync, which to me is more important. Individually, you could be great, right? And I think we've saw it midweek, right? Where you have all these teams, New York City FC, Cincinnati, 4-4, crazy game, ridiculous. I mean, sure, it sounds fun and maybe it was entertaining, but I don't want my team giving up for goals. I mean, I know I don't. That's why I find it pretty funny with all the LAFC guys that are hoping that Mark Dos Santos fails. And they're like, oh, well, this team needs to be better. Look, I'm not saying that they don't need to be more dangerous on offense, but they're defensively sound.
Yeah.
And you call it cliche or not, defense wins championships, and having a team that's solid defensively is important. So the Sounders have that.
Yeah.
And to me, that has been the biggest change, and credit because that was in the top of the objective board for this coaching staff. They've been able to do it.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, why don't we take a break? We'll come back and we will talk about FC Dallas a little bit more. You're listening to Nos Arietes on the Sound at Heart Podcast Network. Welcome back to Nos Arietes on the Sound at Heart Podcast Network. And I should note that you might be watching this on Lobbing Scorchers. This is part of a growing partnership that we have with Lobbing Scorchers. You, of course, know that Lobbing Scorchers has been on the Sound at Heart podcast network for about 2 years, but we are expanding our relationship, and we are going to be starting to push more Sound at Heart video content onto the Lobbing Scorchers YouTube page. We are not fully unwinding the Sound at Heart video program, but it's going to mostly be a podcast feed for Nos Audietes, and most of the original video that we're going to be doing is going to go through Lobbing Scorchers. So if you are listening to this and you want to see our faces more often and you want to see more video content, I would urge you to go to Lobbing Scorchers YouTube page and hit the subscribe button. I guess that's what the kids say. Subscribe, like and subscribe, right?
Like and subscribe. That's right. You know, we've been growing a whole lot when it comes to that. I appreciate all of the support from everyone and how much good feedback I'm getting.
Yeah, and that's what we're going to put the
Mm-hmm.
studio to use.
That's right. That's right.
And that is a big part of it. And I really love the video work that Lobbing Scorchers does, and so I'm really excited about doing this. We are going to be working more together than ever before, and that you're still going to be doing Lobbing Scorchers morning. What is it?
Morning kickoff.
Morning kickoff.
Yeah,
That's
yeah.
What, I didn't want to blow the name there.
Yeah, Lobbing Scorchers kickoff. That's been great with Ari, and of course, you know, Fridays on what we learned this week, and I'm sure that at times we're going to be able to come in here with maybe
Guests.
a player, right, or two, maybe
Show
you know,
off a little bit.
That's right. Show them the
Flex.
space, use it, you know, all of it. So. I appreciate everybody just being on board, and if there's ideas, things you want to see this space used for, you know, let us know. Jeremiah, man, he's the boss, so whatever he says goes.
All right, well, let's talk a little bit about FC Dallas. They are coming off a midweek game against Minnesota United, a 1-0 loss in which they were probably the better team. The game was in Dallas, and so this is going to be their third game in a week, basically. I guess Peter Musa went out with an injury in the Minnesota game.
Yes,
and we don't know what his status is coming into this one.
No, to me, it looks serious enough where you're not going to risk him 3 days later, especially with a travel in between and a short week. So Brian kind of asked me if I knew anything more than he did, and no, I do not. I watched the game over again this morning, and things do change in dynamic without Peter Musa up there. I mean, no disrespect to Logan Farrington, who is a very good player. I think he's a good striker. I think he moves well, but he needs that killer and that other attacker, because I do feel like if there's anything to that partnership is that they play well off of each other. Mm-hmm. But without one, it just didn't look as good. Santiago Moreno is a very known player around this parts, right? He used to play for Portland. He's a player that a Sounders scouted actually very heavily prior to him moving to Portland. And he looked good. He started in this game. Valiente was the guy that was off this one in particular to start off the game. But Valiente has also been very good. They have changed and rotated, I want to say, 7 different starting 11 this season. So they're still trying to figure things out. They play more in a 3-4-3 during midweek. They like to use their wing backs, Shaq Moore being their most effective. Shaq Moore is a guy that I actually enjoy a lot watching play. He's got very good delivery. He's very smart about when he gets forward. He's selective on when he used the overlaps and the underlaps. So with Santiago Moreno, though, he is a guy that likes to gravitate internally. So he does kind of push Shaq more and more to the left side. But it's going to be interesting how it plays out. If I had to describe this team, I would say that they're not quite there when it comes to what they want to do great at. Like, there isn't anything that I think that they do great at. I think they do a lot of things that are good, but they just don't specialize in anything. I think that they play in a mid-block. I think that when they're on the ball, they push their back line pretty high. They like to keep you pinned in. They have taken advantage of a lot of transition moments because they do a good job trapping and repressing, but I wouldn't call them a high pressing team.
But a high effort team,
But
sort
a
of
high effort
like kind of
team.
like a Brian.
Totally.
I mean, honestly, like a lot of similarities to the way the Sounders play with under Brian Schmetzer is like every single player is expected to defend.
Totally.
Every player is expected to run. This is not a team that has a lot of. They don't have luxury players, and I think that's part of what made Acosta's time so tough. There was that he is kind of more of a luxury player who just he's like a classic 10. But yeah, so Asante Moreno made his first start of the season since moving over to Dallas on Wednesday. It seems maybe unlikely that he would start 2 games on short rest like that, but he will certainly have a role to play. The other player who I keep hearing a lot about and who seems to sort of like personify a lot of what Dallas is under Peter Quill is Christian Kappas, a defensive midfielder who is sort of their, he's kind of their Christian Roldan a little bit.
Yeah, and the funny part is that although he has been good, I think that there is a lot more to be needed in terms of game possession and game tempo. They give up a lot of, over the last 3 games that I watched pretty consistently, they have a hard time managing games late, right? They give up a very easy goal against San Luis City a couple of weeks back. They have a 2-2 draw against the LA Galaxy, even after Joao Klaus goes out, who now is out for I think all the way till like after the World Cup break. So this is a team that they don't have a tempo setter at midfield. Kayaki, the other midfielder next to him. I totally butchered his name. He's another one that
Ferrero, you're talking about? Yeah,
Kayaki. Yeah,
I have no idea how to say that name.
Yeah, no, I was trying to practice it before this, and I totally lost it. But he is another midfielder that I feel like is more of a box to box, but doesn't quite set the tempo or hold the ball the way that would allow you to be more purposeful late in the game. I also think they're very gappy. I feel like watching this game with another analyst, we were kind of talking about that it's easier to play through them than around them. And I feel like that fits Seattle pretty well, right? Because Seattle has some very good through ball passers, whether it's Jackson Reagan in the back end, whether it's Jesus Ferreira a little bit higher. Well, Christian Roldan does that pretty well. He's done it in the last couple of games. He won't be in this particular game, but maybe a Snyder Brunel can do that. So because the Sounders do such a good job of playing through certain pressure, I feel like Seattle is effectively built to beat this Dallas team.
Yeah, and the reality is that the Sounders have dominated Dallas at home. They have the longest active home unbeaten streak against a single opponent. Actually, it's the longest in MLS history, I believe, at 21 games. So this is a game where anything less than 3 points would be a disappointment. I mean, that's just the reality.
True.
That does not mean that Dallas is not capable of winning this game, but this is a game the Sounders should feel like they should win, and it's an opponent that they have, they have every reason to be confident going against.
Yeah, and I would think that although they do play with a 3-man back line, I think that they have a hard time when it comes to combination play, and that's another part of the Sounders game that has grown so much over the last couple of years. I got to give Freddie Juarez a lot of credit when it comes to a lot of those attacking movements. So if you can pull those center backs out, drag them out a little bit, you can really get through and create some big opportunities. And the goalkeeping situation for Dallas has also been dicey. So testing from mid-range shots, I think is going to be important for this team. So with everything that I'm saying here, I think you're seeing my indication that I feel like Seattle should win this game pretty comfortably, but you can't say that, right? You can't overlook the opponent. I feel like the Sounders...
You can say it.
You can't say you can't do it. But what I will say is that I was talking to Kevin today, and I was like, look, unfortunately, and people are not going to like this, the Sounders with the ebbs and flows of the season, they're due for one of those stale games and for one of those, I'm going to drop some. I know. But to everyone watching, I do think that it might be more the Kansas City road trip and not this one, because Kansas City tends to be a dicey one for the Sounders. But this particular game at home with who I believe is going to be a very good Jesus Ferreira in this particular game.
It does seem like a game that sets up well for him, especially that he's playing his former team, his boyhood club, as he called them. I mean, it's sort of hard to overstate his history. Like we talk about, Paul Rothrock grew up a Sounders fan, but the reality is he didn't really get into the Sounders organization until he was a senior in high school. Jesus Ferreira started playing for FC Dallas at like 9 years old.
Grew up there.
I mean, he played there through his age 23 season. He went through his whole life rooting for FC Dallas, and when he was a child, before that even, his dad was the best player on the team. So he has a lot of history with FC Dallas, and he talked about how it's still a little weird to face his former team. I think it helps that there's not a lot of players left over from, at least there's players left over from when he was there, but there's the players he came up with are mostly gone now. And I just want to do a little mea culpa. I called the coach of FC Dallas Peter Quill. Peter Quill is Star-Lord from Guardians of the Galaxy. Eric Quill is the coach of FC Dallas. So anyway, just wanted to make sure people realized that I knew I made a mistake. But yeah, the game this should be a game that there's a lot of reasons to be confident about the Sounders. But if there are reasons to be skeptical, Logan Farrington has to be at the top of the list. This is a player who came out of the draft, who was a number 3 draft pick, and has been one of, if not the best players to come out of the draft in a while. And that's saying something because the draft does continue to churn out at least a few players every year who are pretty good.
Totally. I could not disagree more. His savviness, and he's not the fastest, not the strongest, but his ability to locate himself correctly in that final third is great. Yeah. And it's of a player beyond his years. And it makes him a very dangerous player for a Sounders team that, they have done well when it comes to minimizing the challenges that certain strikers might provide. And that's why if there's anywhere where I think the Sounders have to be careful, it is on set pieces. That's still somewhere where I think Dallas could affect this game. And if you allow Dallas to get ahead in this game, maybe, it gives you a little bit of a headache. But in terms of those attacking players, I think Logan Farrington is certainly alongside of Santiago Moreno, because Santi Moreno might not be a DP talent, but he can have DP moments. He is a very...
And yes, it is the same Santi Moreno from Portland Timbers.
Yeah. Same guy. Right. He left, was in Brazil.
Right.
Look, he left Portland not just because, there was a lot of issues with that Portland front office, which they've been a mess for quite some time.
Interesting.
It's odd. Yeah, and then he went to Brazil. Now he's back. I think he's a very good player, and he could have magical moments. So that's another guy that you need to be on him, disconnect him from the game, and not allow him a lot of space on top of the box, because he's not afraid to take a mid-range shot curler and put it away in the back of the net. And he also connects very well, where he's going to be looking for those through balls. He's shifty on the ball. So I think both Farrington and Santiago Moreno are the two guys that I would look at and make sure that you are consistently taking out of the game.
All right, well, that's probably a good place to call it. I don't think we have anything left to discuss. Do we?
No, I don't think so. I think that we covered all the injuries that were important. Obviously, this game against FC Dallas. I think we talked about everything. We were even able to, promote that Peter Kingston.
That's
exclusive
on Lobbing Scorchers, and the audio version of this. Maybe we'll throw that interview in between the segments. I don't know. If you're listening to this, you probably already know what we decided to do there, but. It was nice talking to Peter Kingston. He is someone who understands his place, and I think he understands this moment that he finds himself in, and he's not taking it for granted. Mm-hmm. I think he's someone that's really easy to root for, but the more I watch him, the more I really like his game. He has some sauce. He has some bite. He is a player who I'm a little surprised didn't catch more attention than he's got here. So
he fell through the cracks. There's no doubt about it.
Very much.
And the Sounders have done a good job at just collecting those players, right?
Yeah.
Maybe people are not watching. I think the only question about Peter Kingston that I didn't quite realize until we got to talk to him is maybe we don't know his best position. I feel like his center midfield because, when you give him that freedom, I think he can get in and out, especially in this system where you find yourself maybe a little bit wider, depending on the push of your fullback. Sometimes, if it's Kalani in those inside channels, you could get pushed out or, there's a lot of ways that by adding numbers, you could find yourself in different positions. But I thought I heard him say like winger.
Yeah, I think he said left wing. That's what he said was his preferred position, which I don't know if he's even played for the Sounders yet.
I don't know. I mean, I know that he got put like on the right wing.
He had
in Spokane, right?
Exactly.
Where he created that goal. And he has right back in his background.
Yeah, he's played some right back. I mean, he's a very versatile player who I don't think we've seen I think we're only like kind of seeing the tip of the iceberg with him, which I think is pretty exciting. And I think is another reason to be bullish about this team. But with all that said, let's get out of here. I'm Jeremiah Cheyenne signing off for Niko Morano. This is Sounder at Heart, or this is No Sadiates, part of the Sounder at Heart podcast network on and video on Lobbing Scorcher. So again, make sure to like and subscribe to this video. We'll be back doing more of these. We'll catch you next time.